So, welcome to Keyword Crypto, our 100th episode.
100,
Yeah,
100, 100. Can you believe it? 2.5 years and 100 of these fucking things. We've come a long way. I was on Twitter this week, as you do, as we do, and this week has been annoying because it's been like, the same old arguments and people thinking that I'm being that I sound bitter and all this stuff
and 12.
So our tone, it is what it is.
The fact that Mario thought we were both younger than him, that still cracks me up.
Mario giving me, check out the show. So we have sort of developed, I think, kind of a unique perspective. I think that it's very easy for people to listen to the show and see us on Twitter and think, oh, those guys are so anti-Bitcoin and they're so anti-crypto, and they're on here just like Bitfinex and just like Kaz Piancé and all those guys to get likes and
I love
views.
that you still call him Kaz Piancé.
Kaz Piancé. It sounds cool that way, man. Cass, Bennett Tomlin, Kyle Gibson, like all these guys who like basically, I don't know what their sick thing is, but they're on a mission to declare Bitcoin a scam. Now,
actually, Cass came out recently this week. Sorry to interrupt. Cass came out just this week saying, I don't have a problem with Bitcoin. What I have a problem with is Tether propping up Bitcoin.
Sure.
If Tether went away, I would have no problem with Bitcoin at all.
Well, and I'm glad he made that clear, because I think it's really easy to lump all of these David Gerard, he writes books about the Bitcoin's failures. I mean, he's got revenue tied up in it. He's got book sales in it. Like people who are journalists like Amy Castor, and like that's their identity online. It's their identity in the world is to be anti-crypto. And that's not what we are. I think a lot of people hear our arguments and they think, oh, here we go again. Somebody who's going to talk about how Tether's a scam. Well, up to this point, I haven't any proof. I don't have anything to make me believe that sounds like a realistic thing at all, that Tether is legitimate. I just don't. Like, I'd love to believe it because I own Bitcoin. And if something were to happen to Tether, then my Bitcoin would become worth a lot less. So for me, it's like, I would love it if Bitcoin were a better thing. And I would love that. What I don't like, and I think it's the same for you too, Michael, is that what I don't like is I don't like the petulant attitudes that get thrown around if you don't fall in line with what the current take on Bitcoin is. And that's just like, I think that's usually what we rail against I like to think that we have a somewhat rational voice, and yes, it is often a little bit anti-Bitcoin, but that's because we see some issues with Bitcoin. The first episode that we ever did, and maybe the second episode, it was like, hey, there's a question that we have about Bitcoin. It has to do with how much it costs to mine. That seems a little hard. Like, how do you make a network that is supported by people who have the means to, like, there's a conflict of interest there, and it's those conflicts of interest that have kept this show going, because we're looking for answers to them.
Sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
I mean, so to go back to what you said earlier is, we give Mario a ton of shit because he works for a Bitcoin company. So obviously he can't be 100% trusted because he has his own financial interest at heart. And he's admitted that. And he said, absolutely, you should take everything I say with a grain of salt and do your own research and trust, don't trust, verify, all that stuff. And we hold Cass, we hold Kyle, we hold David Gerard, we hold all of them to the same exact standards. Not so much Cass and Kyle. Kyle kind of, because he's a journalist. He's quote unquote a journalist. He travels and he writes. Cass is kind of just like a free floating type guy. But David absolutely sells books. So you should take everything he
Yeah.
says with a grain of salt because he's trying to sell you something.
For sure.
So we're going to hold them. We're going to hold him to the same exact standards that we hold Mario to, because it literally is two different people on opposite sides of the spectrum trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell you a narrative. Now, David tends to be a little bit more.
He's got a lot of like sardonic, satirical, whatever
but
you
he
call
also
it. In
seems
his,
to be a little bit more
comedian.
journalistic about it. He's doing his research. But he definitely seems to a guy with an axe to grind. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with Mario trying to sell Bitcoin. What I have a problem with is when Mario tries to debate us and say, well, you guys just don't want to see what I'm saying. And it's just like, well, no, we see what you're saying, but it's not true. And that doesn't mean I dislike you. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be your friend, but it means that I'm not going to fall for what you're saying. Because especially if you've lived a relatively privileged life in a relatively socialized country that has amazing social services, and the places you've traveled to are developed nations with really strong social service networks. I mean, coming to America is probably the least civilized place he's ever been to, with how bad our healthcare is and our protections for poor people compared to the places he's gone to. So he's a coder. He said like when his idea of being poor was making like $25,000 a year when he was fresh out of college. I'm like, oh, boo hoo, that's rough. And not to put him down or say that his experiences are wrong in any way, but just that's a relatively privileged life compared to 95% of the people on the planet. And that's it's not his fault. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we try to let people know is the majority of people don't have those same privileges. So when you tell us that Bitcoin's really useful, and we say, how? And they say, well, cross-border payments, and I can send stuff to friends without governments, stepping in and doing all that. And I'm like, okay, but you're paying people for work and they trust you and they don't need the money right away. So you can send it to them a day later and have really low fees. Or, you can send your cross-border payments for this or that. And the people that you're sending it to are also kind of nerds, and they know how to use Coinbase or this or, OKX or Binance and sell it for USDT and then trade it out and then convert it to cash if they need to. These people know how to do that that 12-step process. But if some immigrant strawberry picker comes across into California to pick some strawberries and send money back down to Oaxaca, that has intermittent internet, you really think they're going to spend $8 on a transaction fee to send, $50 down to their family? No, that's ridiculous. And do you think anybody in developing community Oaxaca that may have intermittent access to internet, do you think they're going to know how to go onto Binance and convert it to pesos and make sure that they can, pay for their cheese that day or their tortillas or, whatever? It's like, come on, like we have to be realistic. This is not a currency for poor people yet. That may change. That may change down the road. We're totally open to that. Me and JJ are totally open to that. But right now, it is not a currency for poor people. It preys on poor people.
And okay, so a lot of that is hopeful thinking. I'm going to pause here for a second because we're New Year 2021. This is the 100th episode. You're listening to Keyword Crypto. My name is JJ. Michael, say hello so everyone knows your voice.
Hey, I'm Michael. I'm going
to reel you in. I'm going to reel you in because what the fuck are we talking about? Who are these people? And what is this argument? And we're 10 minutes into the episode. So like I said, we started this podcast because we liked the idea of crypto. We liked the questions that it asked. We liked the, all of that. However, we had some big issues with Bitcoin, and we had some big issues with Ethereum. So we set out to interview a bunch of people, and we didn't really make a big deal out of it. We just show up here once a week and kind of chat. It really is just us talking to each other about what's going on. So it keeps us connected to the space. It keeps us kind of in the, it keeps us up to date with things that are going on, like shit with Ripple last week, or whatever fuckface billionaire is buying Bitcoin next, or whatever. However, we tend to kind of get wrapped up in these online discussions where we are. I don't even know why we end up. I mean, what happens is we'll have something to say that might not be so pro Bitcoin, and I think people feel like they are attacked.
Yeah.
And no wonder, because they have lots of money wrapped up in it, like that.
They're very sensitive. Like, these Bitcoiners,
yeah, it's
they're
like
very sensitive people. We gotta make sure we walk on eggshells around them, because we don't want to hurt their feelings.
And it's also we're also relatively liberal, progressive, left-leaning guys. So it's very easy for some people to listen to us and think that we complain a lot, and that we have that we're, poor little snowflakes that are always getting our feelings hurt, and that we're always talking about inequality and injustice, and we want more diversity and inclusion and all that stuff, because we actually do. Because we actually believe those things. But I think that because we have that thread through the show, it's easy for, I don't know. I feel like sometimes we get picked on, or we get, I don't know what you'd call it. But that's welcome to Keyword Crypto. That's us. We're little snowflakes that get our feelings hurt.
Yeah,
when we.
I wouldn't say we get picked on. I think we try to get shut down.
Oh, we try to get shut down. We try to get shut up. But I think that often, well, no, we have some dedicated trolls that love to spin us up.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Like, and that's just one of those things where when we get into these conversations, why do I continue to reply on Twitter to these things? I mean,
I finally said that to Joe today.
That much.
So Joe, what's his last name?
Joey Looney.
Yeah, Joe Looney. He finally, he always he is one of my dedicated trolls at this point.
Mm-hmm. This guy loves us. He loves us.
So he always jumps in and talks shit. And finally today, and then after I go round and round, he finally admits, no, Bitcoin's not for poor people. So him and Mike in Space have now officially said multiple times,
right, Bitcoin
is not for poor people.
Yeah, and that's great. I'm glad they admit that. And it's like, I mean,
so finally today he jumped on again today with this new thread, and I finally replied, Joe, why do you keep jumping in? Because we go at it over and over again, and then I finally get you to admit that Bitcoin isn't for poor people.
It's just playing,
and that's it.
It's just playing, I guess.
I think he's hoping that he can trip me up somehow. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's just bored. Maybe he's just that bored of life. Maybe he's just bored of being rich with all that Bitcoin he has.
I have to admit, I show up in those threads because I get bored sometimes, and then because if you look at my Twitter account, I rarely ever post about crypto. It's maybe something about this show, maybe an update. I reply a lot. Well, I actually don't even reply that much, but if somebody mentions something about Bitcoin and they ask for opinions, then I'll throw it out there. But anyway, so that's kind of welcome to Keyword Crypto. This is what our show is. And I'm happy to be here because I think we have a somewhat unique voice, and I think that I'm a little bit more humble than that, because it's not like we've got tens of thousands of listeners or followers, but I am proud to have a somewhat agnostic voice in this, as sort of like, hey, yeah, crypto's cool. I like these people who want to engage with us about it. I love the fact that we get to talk to people who are building in the space and stuff like that. And, just other people who have opinions that don't get heard quite as often. And then the other thing we do on the show a lot, it's great.
I mean, our fan base are all crypto people who enjoy listening to skeptical and curious questions about cryptocurrency, and aren't afraid to push back against the Bitcoin narrative. Like you need it, and I love Eric said. Oh my god! Okay, sorry.
I love it when we get those alternate opinions that are skeptical in a different way. I think that skepticism often gets confused with negativity, because skepticism can be very negative. But
Yeah.
you really do need skepticism. I mean, I'm building an app right now where if I was not skeptical, I would have built a shitty thing if I weren't like kind of questioning what we were doing and trying to make sure that all of its shortcomings were well known to myself so that they could be fixed or whatever. But it's I'm proud that we can keep doing this for 100 episodes, keep showing up, and those of you who are still listening, who are fans of this show, I mean, I'm so grateful to have you guys. I feel like we set out to kind of make friends with. Well, we didn't even really set out. We set out to make a podcast and just talk about it, but we ended up finding a bunch of friends with the same unique skeptical perspective, and I think that's great. So, hey, Nano guys, just to throw that out there too, because we've often used one little shitcoin as an example of like, hey, if you can make one of these that is free to transact, and then all the Bitcoin maximalists alarms are going off saying, hey, that doesn't solve.
That's a scam. That's got to be a scam.
Well, yeah, that doesn't solve the double spend problem.
Can you look at it to let us know how? Wow, I'm not going to waste my time with a scam coin, with a shit coin. Oh, just give it like a cursory glance, just because we would really love to know what's wrong. No, fuck that. It's a scam. I'm not going to look at anything. I'm not going to waste any of my time. I know you guys are smart, and I know you guys wouldn't waste my time, but I'm not going to look at it anyway. It's like, come on, guy, dude. If you're going to have a conversation with us, obviously we're intelligent enough to look at stuff and ask serious questions. Like, do fucking 5 minutes of research before you start calling shit a scam. That's what I do. That's what you and I do. We do 5 minutes of research. And if it looks interesting, we start talking about it and get information from people. It's just like, it drives me crazy how close-minded these people are. But like you said, they're so invested in Bitcoin. I think they're just afraid. I think they're afraid that like they've spent 10 years of their life doing something and they don't want it to not work out. And so, but that's just sad.
I feel for them.
That's just sad.
I feel for them. I mean, like, some of when we interviewed the creator of Nano, Colin, I think that we got a lot of people listening to our show because they were really big fans of that particular crypto, and so I started following a lot of them back because they started following me on Twitter. I started to see what they were all about, and I have to say, a lot of them do seem kind of like they've swallowed a pill of sorts. And I think that we want to sort of discourage people from falling into any sort of tribe like that. I mean, like we've constantly asked people to come on and challenge these things that we're using as examples, and in this case, we're talking about Nano, or we're talking about whatever. But yes, we want them to be challenged. We think it's only fair. Most Bitcoin fans have, and I think this is probably what happens if you're new to crypto and you're wondering why there is such animosity in the space. Besides the kind of butthurt thing that Michael is talking about, maybe they missed their opportunity to get crazy gains in the altcoins, or maybe whatever it is. I think more than anything, it's much easier to call everything else a scam and not worry about it than to find the slightest bit of interest, because crypto is a rabbit hole. And I think that is something that people do. I mean, if you have a gambling problem, for instance, if you have a penchant for gambling, wow, crypto is such a gnarly place to be. And you might as well be a Bitcoin maximalist and just stack your sats or whatever, because that's a deep hole to fall into. So
yeah,
anyway,
it's just, I mean, so you hear that? I mean, but that's the thing about I think the one thing we love talking about the Nano stuff is because the Nano people have a sense of humor. They don't take I don't think they take themselves too seriously, because we talk a bunch of shit, like not like in a bad way, but just, we say, hey, and I said it straight to Colin, I said, hey, and I like that Colin flat out said, fixed supply is an experiment. He didn't say fixed supply is going to save the world, blah, blah. Like, this is the change. He said, this is an experiment. We're experimenting with fixed supply. We have a hypothesis. We're going to test it out. Great. That is what science is about. That's what people in Bitcoin should be doing, is saying, this is a scientific experiment. We're going to test it out. And obviously, it's not working. So what a scientist should do is say, what aspects of it aren't working? What can we change to make it work? But instead of that, they said it's not working. So instead of trying to make it work for what we wanted it to do, we're going to change the narrative of what it actually does now.
Yeah, and you've just triggered like 1,000 people, by the way, on Twitter or whatever, by saying that Bitcoin doesn't work. But what we're specifically talking about is that you want to mention it. You want to say it: Bitcoin banking the unbanked, or becoming a medium of exchange, or even
just the white paper, peer-to-peer currency,
peer-to-peer currency. So medium of exchange. That's Bitcoin does not really do that. So,
it can't. It's physically impossible.
But Michael,
it's
so early.
Can you buy coffee?
So early,
it's so early.
It's so early.
It's 12 years later. It's so early, and it's only getting worse. Come on,
we still have.
But we still have till 2140 to go.
But do you know how much? Do you know how much Grayscale is buying Bitcoin? It's early. Do you know that billionaires are buying Bitcoin? So I think there's still an opportunity for it to change the world.
And this is what Joe said to me. He it was either Joe or Mike. He in reply to me saying it doesn't work, he said, "Well, the price is going up. So what's your indicator of not working?"
Yeah,
I said,
have fun staying poor.
The same thing as any scientist. It doesn't work. Yeah. Just because the value of your elements that you're using in an experiment go up in value doesn't mean the experiment all of a sudden works. Just because the uranium you're using to test this thing, all of a sudden the stock price went up on it. It's just like, what the fuck kind of argument is that? Well, Bitcoin's worth a lot, so it must be working. No, that is the dumbest fucking argument I could possibly imagine. And if you're basing your quote unquote scientific experiment on how much Bitcoin is worth, then you're a fucking failure. That's probably why you're not a scientist right now.
Well, I mean, maybe Bitcoin isn't. I'm kind of feeling it right now. So like, maybe Bitcoin is not meant to solve the world's problems. It's another one. So like, basically, here's the problem I have with that. Like, I think, or when people say, "Hey, I think that your altruism is great," even though it might be a little hypocritical, because admittedly, we're all hypocrites to a certain degree, right?
Yes, I'm not.
Well, I mean, we all. You own an iPhone, for Christ's sake, so it's like, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. But so it's like, don't you think that we should all be thinking about how to solve the problems? Like, shouldn't we actually be waking up in the morning and thinking about that? Yeah. Thinking about like we should spend, like, I get it. Like you bought Bitcoin and you wanted to go up in value. So because you want your family to be rich. Okay, great. But like, I mean,
then just walk away. Leave it at that. No, don't try to convince me that it's going to save poor people. Yeah. Like, don't try to what's the word? Don't try to rationalize why you bought it. You don't need to convince me why you bought it. I don't care. And like, it sounds like you're trying to rationalize it for yourself by convincing me. And if you can convince me, that'll make you feel better about the investment that you took. Dude, if you need to try to convince me about your investment, fucking sell that investment, because you obviously don't believe in it enough.
Yeah. And like, I mean, income and wealth inequality is a huge problem in the world. It's one of the things that Michael and I both agree on. It's one of the things that we need. It's one of the things we talk about all the time. We talk about it on the show. We talk about it outside the show too. It's like a big problem. We've talked to economists. We've talked to developers, scientists. It's like, it's one of the reasons that we're here, and it's very possible that cryptocurrency could actually solve some of these problems.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you were to ask me why I'm doing this show and why I show up to these discussions on Twitter, it's because I think there's a fighting chance here. I think that there's like actually things that could be good. And I think that when I want to spend my life, I want to wake up every morning and think, what can I do to make the world a better place? Now, okay, that might sound kind of cheesy, but what if we all did that? I mean, like,
Yeah.
like seriously, like when we get like, I swear to God, we get picked on because we did a show about white supremacy. We did a show about white supremacy and how it shows up in ways that you don't expect and how it shows up in crypto. And it's like, we got a little bit of shit for that because it's like, you know, maybe it seems like we're seeing ghosts or we are making up shit that isn't real, but it's fucking real.
Or
it's
white men dressed in white sheets. Pretending to be ghosts.
Okay, yeah, right. Yes. And it's I kind of think that everyone should wake up in the morning and say, how can I root out white supremacy? Because it's something that's got to go.
Yeah.
And like, we need to put a lot of energy into it. It's like,
we're two white guys.
It's like saving the environment. It's something we got to do now. It's not going to get better. And we're two white guys. Exactly. It's in fact, it's our responsibility as white guys to make sure that we do this. It's our job to get rid of white supremacy. It's not the people of color's job, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
anyway, but not to have any sort of white knight, not to have any sort of white knight complex. It's something that we need to fix, and we need to we need to call it out when we see it. And so when we see it
funny,
in crypto,
it's libertarians are always about personal responsibility and self-regulation and you know, let the industry regulate itself. But as soon as white people try to regulate themselves, like regulate other white supremacists, all of a sudden it's like, wow, what the fuck? What are you doing? Blah blah. It's like, okay, you obviously don't believe in communities regulating themselves, so we're gonna have to have fucking governments do it because you're such a fucking little bitch. I'm sorry, like you ruined it for everybody. Fucking libertarians.
I think there's still so many people who just don't see that it's a problem that permeates so much of our world.
Of course,
I mean,
and the common thread in all those people, they're all white men. Not all of them. Most of them are white men.
Yeah, I don't know. They're all cartoon avatars to me, so I don't know.
Of course, they don't see anything.
They're all cartoon characters. I don't know if any of these people actually exist. I'm probably talking to bots. No. Yeah. So I think that a lot of people hate this show. I think a lot of people hate us. I think a lot of people, you say keyword crypto and they're like, don't invite those guys into my thread. Don't listen to that show or whatever. At the same time, I feel like I have made a lot of friends in the space who I disagree with. And I think that's kind of cool that, you know, Mario is somebody that we can have on the show and openly disagree with and be like, hey, we should get a beer sometime or whatever. And I appreciate that. And I like that. In fact, Mike in Space is one of those people who, I swear to God, he posts sometimes knowing that we're going to show up in his thread and he's happy to have the engagement or something. Yeah. Because he's actually somebody who's really supportive of the show.
I sometimes think he's bored and purposely posts white supremacy type tweets just so we'll engage with him. He's like, I haven't talked to these guys in a while. Why won't they respond? Here's a white supremacy tweet. Here we go.
Let me
He's like, I knew that would work.
That's. I'm sure he does it. And for a long time, I mean, like, you know, you've always been. You're more of a dick on Twitter than I am. And I mean, it's just because of the personal jabs here and there. You know, so I think some people, maybe they get us confused or something because I proofread all of my tweets and I'm like, there's no way that this one could be misconstrued as being personal attacks or sounding bitter or any of those things. But I guess my voice is a little bit excited right now, so I can see why you might read them that way. You got to read it in the excited JJ voice. Anyway, so what about 2021? Or should we talk about 2020? Should we wrap up the year? Should we talk about what's going to happen?
Well, we can
year.
Do both.
So
do both.
Yeah. So this year we were going to go to war with Iran, right? Like,
at the beginning of the year. That's what it looked like it was going to happen.
Yeah. And then we heard actually through crypto, we heard about COVID because there were crypto fans in China that started
Crypto
talking about it. I think
Bitlord.
Bitlord was talking about how
he was stuck in China.
But the problem, the problem with crypto Bitlord is he's so full of shit that like I have no idea if what he's saying is hyperbolic. He's gonna like eat a raw steak right after he says whatever he's gonna say. So it's hard for what we knew that something was going on, and the other thing, and we've mentioned this a couple times on the show, is that all throughout 2019, you get all of these CEOs that are stepping down and selling their stocks, or they're looking for an opportunity to sell this. They're stepping down. They're probably looking for an opportunity to sell their stocks. COVID hits, and this is a conspiracy theory, of course, that it's all coincidental, that it's not coincidental that everyone sells their stocks right when it seems convenient to have an excuse to do it. But it does seem kind of crazy that March 16th or March 14th or March 12th or whenever it was, that we've got the biggest crash ever in both stocks and crypto. Crypto drops from like 12,000 all the way down to 3,800 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
And then ever since that day, we've been on a crazy bull run.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much been the year that's been the crypto year. It's been a bull run this year. And that's something we hadn't seen since 2017. So there's excitement in the air, but there's also, there's fear. And then there's, we're still, there's got the shelter in place thing going on. So everyone's like lost their jobs. So there's widespread unemployment. Basically, economies should be falling apart right now, and I think they are, and that we're probably just starting to see the foreclosures and the evictions and everything. They're probably going to come in 2021, but
because
in
eventually,
the wake of
these protections from evictions are gonna expire, and even with the protections in place, they only help if the person being evicted knows they can't be evicted. That's the thing. Even judges were allowing evictions to go through because the person being evicted didn't say it's illegal for me to be evicted right now. If the judge didn't hear that out of the person's mouth, they would let these fuckers evict them. And those judges need to be fucking lined up and shot because that's fucking ridiculous. You have one job. One job is to protect fucking people. Protect people from people who are preying on poor people. And you let them fucking evict poor people in the middle of a fucking pandemic where they go out on the fucking street and infect a bunch of people and fucking a bunch of people die like in LA. Like how the fuck do you let that happen? You belong in jail, you motherfuckers.
So we've got all this misery. We've got everyone's losing their jobs. Everyone's losing their homes. No one has any money. No one can really afford to eat. And in the wake of it, Michael Saylor buys billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and everyone cheers because he's saving crypto or whatever happened that caused a bull run, institutional investors or whatever. But basically, when the world is at its worst, that's when we happen to see this new bull market, and we see the DeFi movement. We see all of these shit coins pop up and try to do this yield farming thing or this, lending, liquidity providing, everything that was wrapped up in DeFi. I asked on Twitter,
other rug pulls.
Lots of scams. Whenever something big happens in the Ethereum land, it's like, get ready for the scams. So that happened, and I don't know. Michael, do you think that DeFi is done, or do you think we're going to see another round of it, or you think we're going to get a different flavor entirely?
I think there's going to be something entirely different. I think DeFi is slowly running its course. I think these scam cycles are going to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think the ICOs were really big and exciting, and they kind of ran their course because it was so easy because anybody could just copy and paste code and then just change the name and then put that up there. Have people buy into the ICO, and they just run off with all the money. And then this time it's rug pulls. So it's the liquidity provider, blah, blah. People put all their liquidity in there, and the person just runs away with it.
So I'm not so sure. I'm like, I kind of feel like I feel like that DeFi bubble may not have been as big as when you look at the 2017 ICOs and how they started early 2017 and ran all the way through the summer and all the way up through 2018 and were still happening deep into 2018, and most of them were scams, right?
I mean, look at
So
EOS, all of 2018, all of it.
So I think that maybe DeFi is just getting started. I think maybe there's going to be some crazy. Now, the problem with DeFi is it's a little bit harder to understand than ICOs. Like ICOs is easy. It's like
Hold on.
the
You interrupted.
VPN.
I don't think DeFi is over. I just think a lot of the rug pulls are over. I think the legitimate ones are here, and I think, just like a lot of the legitimate ICOs stuck around, like Binance Coin and all that. And there were a lot of legitimate ones that stuck around that are still there, that Bitcoiners will still complain about being pre-mines and all that, but they're still here. They're still functioning. They're still doing things. Just like I think a lot of the DeFi that are out here. I mean, DeFi is here. It's not going away, but I just don't think there's going to be as many rug pulls as there were, 5 months ago.
I wonder because, I mean, well, yeah, it's, DeFi is a little bit harder to understand than ICOs. ICOs, you just flip on your VPN and send all your Ethereum to this unknown person who is supposed to, basically it's a smart contract that guarantees you're going to get a certain number of tokens, and these tokens are promised to be worth something or not. But with DeFi, you kind of have to understand a little bit about what's going on and how liquidity works. And that's not something the average moron who likes to gamble is going to research unless they think they can make lots of money. Okay, so maybe they fucking will. Yeah.
I mean, how many people were still doing it? Like 2 a day, 3 a day, people were doing these rug pulls. And they all knew the rug pull was going to happen. It was just, can I get in and get out? And they were all paying ridiculous amounts, like $150 transaction fees, $200 transaction fees. But because they were throwing in $10,000 and walking away with, $150,000, they didn't mind paying $500 transaction fees. That was the 2017, 2018 Bitcoin moment where, Bitcoin transaction fees were getting up to $50 a transaction. And, that was a tough learning experience for me. Holy shit. Boy, did I learn about transaction fees after that.
In 2017, if you weren't around, the ICO craze was so insane that you had like teenagers or preteens investing in ICOs, like, because there's no way to censor it. Oh yeah. Go watch the YouTube videos. It's people talking about the ICOs they're investing in, and it's like, you're a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And so like I wonder when we're going to get to that level of madness this time around.
And people our age were listening to them. We're watching their YouTube videos and fucking taking advice from them. People our age in their 30s and 40s. And I'm just like, what are these fucking idiots doing? Holy shit.
To be fair, a lot of those 12-year-olds actually chose some pretty good projects, probably. Because scams pump the hardest. Yeah. That's one thing when so you and I met we went to a meetup. Actually, it was a Crypto Daily was having a little get together, and Crypto Daily has got an amazing show on YouTube, probably one of the best. And I hung out with them afterwards for a while, and I for some reason when I was talking to him, I asked him more questions about being a YouTuber than about crypto, which he was happy to answer because he got so tired of answering questions about crypto.
Yeah.
And, the thing that he said, one of the things that he said to me was that you will get as many followers as you want. I mean, the followers will come if they think that they can make money from what you say. Like that. And that's obvious, right? Like people are going on YouTube to see who has the magic formula, like who can blow on the dice and make money. And I think that like at that time there were people who were just so clueless as to what was going on. It was like, yeah, let me listen to this 12-year-old who seems to have picked 2 winners already. Oh, and then the other thing, of course, is if you pick 10 cryptocurrencies, and say these 10 cryptocurrencies are going to 10x in value, and they all go to zero except for one, well, then you're still right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to, in hindsight, go back and say, you see, I picked a winner. And that really does make people look very smart. And I think that's where a lot of the sort of content creator scammers find their edge, is in kind of like investing in everything and telling everybody to pick these things, or, whatever. I
think the
can't
danger,
even believe that the
and it's already
SEC
starting to
even
happen
kind of didn't
again.
crack down on it.
So this is what's starting to happen again, is you'll have these
the
small
Superman
little
back.
DeFi things, and there's like 1,000 people involved, and so that 1,000 people will start to dive in, and then if it gets traction, then it continues to go up and it becomes viable. But if it doesn't, all that 1,000 people just kind of like, they all know each other, so they just kind of try to, it's Russian roulette. Like, who's going to be the last one to blink? And so like the first person finally gets out, and then everybody starts to get out, and then it all tumbles down. And there's just a bunch of projects like that. But a lot of these guys, they know those projects. They know what's going to come next, and they'll just keep talking about it and be like, see, I look at all these scores I had, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, it's back to zero or whatever like that. And so it's you really got to be careful. And then you find some people who actually do. One or two people I know, or don't know, but I follow and I talk with, absolutely have their ear to the ground, and they can spot them coming. I just don't have the energy to take those kind of risks, or the capital, because they're throwing like 5, 6, 7 names at me, once a week, and I'm just like, holy shit, where are you even hearing about these things? But then all of a sudden, 2 days later, I get an announcement from Binance talking about all those projects, and I was like, what the fuck, man? How did this person hear about all that shit? So I think it's scary. It's not something that you can figure out over the course of a couple of weeks if this person's legitimate or not. You got to kind of follow somebody for like 6 months to a year and a half, see the long-term viability of some of these things. Because some people will pitch you pump and dumps, and some of those pump and dumps will last 4 or 5 months, and then it'll just crash to zero, depending on how many people are involved in the pump and dump. And so some of them will only last like 3 days. It's just, see, that's why you kind of got to give people a wide berth, not a lot of stock. Like, don't hold a lot of stock in what they say. Assume they're trying to get your money somehow. Assume they have some kind of ulterior motive. You just got to be careful.
You can see why someone would say they're all scams. Just invest in Bitcoin and that's it. I totally understand that, but then to just and then of course, I think Ethereum is a great project. I think it's actually doing something super interesting, but unfortunately, it enables a lot of these scams. So it's easy to write that one off too.
Good projects enable scams. That's the thing.
They do, don't they? They do enable scams. I mean, Bitcoin enabled a bunch of scams also
in the early days, and then once transaction fees got too high,
yeah.
And they refused to kind of go with the motion. Like they refused to go with the crowd, where the crowd was kind of taking them. And Bitcoin was like, no, we're going to have small blocks. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. It's going to be regimented. It's going to cost a lot of money to mine this stuff. It's going to cost a lot of money to use this stuff. And all the people who were in it early were fucking rich at that point from Bitcoin. So like, hey, this is perfect. Only we can use it. So we get to have control over it. We're not going to allow people to come in and change it. And we like it the way it is. And we don't want to rock the boat. It's like, okay, that's great. But new technology's coming along.
Yeah. So there's a question of like, well, what would you fix about Bitcoin? Like, is there anything that you could do to make Bitcoin work better? And that's where this is where I think we get criticized as being, shitcoin shills or whatever, because in my opinion, it's like Bitcoin is really hard to change. The consensus is very difficult. I mean, you see what happens to forks, you see how contentious they are. Like, it's really hard to turn that ship, right? But it's it makes sense to put a team together and create something new, right? Like, so
Yeah.
that's like, I don't like to say, well, that's how altcoins are going to replace Bitcoin, because I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe enough developers and miners are going to come together and say, maybe we do need to improve this aspect of Bitcoin. I don't really know.
No, Bitcoin's going to get replaced.
I can't imagine Bitcoin ever being able to solve those problems, really.
No,
it's like bigger blocks.
It's impossible.
No, the bigger blocks doesn't really do it. So it's like we're gonna kind of need something new.
Well, it's also the way Bitcoin works is they say, okay, go ahead, test it out, do a fork, and all that happens when they do that is the people who don't believe in small blocks, or people who don't believe in 10-minute blocks, or people who don't believe in 21 million cap, or people who don't believe in all these things that are kind of slowing it down and making it unwieldy and not really working for everyday people. Those people just drift away. They go to the fork and the fork doesn't work. But at that point they said, I don't like that, and this fork isn't working. Why would I go back to the thing that I know doesn't work? Why don't I just find something else or make my own thing not based on the BTC chain? So they just keep on allowing people to drift off and drift off and drift off. And eventually it's just going to be so small, it's going to get overtaken. That's just history. History shows us that. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing maintains dominance forever. It will not happen. It would go against every single piece of historical information that we have.
I don't really know what the solution looks like. I don't really know what that.
Sure, you do. You just said you just said it earlier.
And there's when you have a free to transact crypto, then then you got all the other issues that come up. You got network spamming or whatever. Like there's the reason that Bitcoin works the way it does is because it's set up in this inefficient way. I feel like
they don't have a solution for it.
That's the way it works.
But
because it has those roadblocks.
Yeah, but just because they couldn't come up with a solution doesn't mean that somebody else can't come up with a solution. And that's what happens is when you say it can't be done, that's just fodder for a scientist, for a mathematician, for a a computer nerd.
I agree with that.
You tell them they can't be done, they're going to fucking figure it out. And somebody figured it out. And this is my advice to everybody listening. I'm not going to tell you what to invest in. I'm not going to say that like Nano's going to replace Bitcoin or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe in Nano, by the way, because it hasn't been proven to me as a project. So I just want to get that out there.
Well, how has it not been proven? You've used it. Right?
I don't understand it enough.
It hasn't been disproven to you.
It hasn't been disproven to me. Yes.
Yeah.
So totally.
That's legitimate. But you can't say it hasn't been proven to you because you've used it. Once you use it, it's been proven to you. But
no, I mean proven in the same way that Bitcoin has been proven. Yeah, I mean like it hasn't been put through its paces. I haven't.
Well,
seen
you don't know that.
With
I don't know that. I mean, we don't. You and I don't.
I haven't seen it, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I mean, it's. I've seen some of the beta tests. I've seen some of the they did some tests with consumer grade equipment like Raspberry Pis and got it to something ridiculous like 3,000 transactions per second on the regular network, not on the test network. So like they're doing just some fucking amazing shit, which is exciting.
I think
which is exciting. But hold on, let me get back to this really fast. So,
well, let me just say my skepticism is partly based on the same question I had for Colin, and that is, it seems too good to be true. So it's like I'm going to kind of go with that. It's hard for me to believe in something that could be that miraculous. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, like the internet's that miraculous.
Kind of. The internet has a lot of problems.
Sure.
It's actually pretty darn slow. It's actually a pretty old technology. It actually,
pretty darn slow, dude. We're recording live. I mean, they're not listening to it live, but we have the ability now to record live.
I'm not saying I'm not saying it's not impressive, but
it's pretty impressive.
It's been around for a very long time, longer than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Longer than anything, longer than any cryptocurrency. So it's the internet, for instance, has been proven to me to be something that works. I will take it over any other. I'll take TCP/IP over any other protocol because it's what everyone's using, and it's been proven to me. Nano doesn't do that for me yet.
Well,
So,
I mean,
and there's not enough people who actually use it. So
yeah, I think you need to do research on your end. You need to, wait for. I don't know. For me, I'm not so much of a does it work as in prove to me it doesn't work at this point, because I've used it enough myself where I'm like, okay, I've since developer wallet 11 or 9 or something like that, I have never had an issue since then. That's it. I just haven't had an issue since then. And I send stuff to myself. I send stuff through the tip bot. I send stuff here. I send stuff. It's just like I'm actually using it on, I wouldn't say a daily basis, but I use it definitely on a weekly basis. But
I mean, besides all that, it was pretty easy.
I don't want to get into like shilling Nano. What I want to get into is offering a suggestion to people of, what's the word? Meet your heroes. There's that famous saying, never meet your heroes because they're going to let you down. Meet your fucking heroes. Meet the people who are actually developing the projects you like. If they're complete narcissistic assholes and not that bright and saying some white supremacy shit, don't get involved in that stuff because that stuff is not going to last. Trust me. And also, ask questions. Ask them questions. And if the response is, fuck you, you're just too dumb to understand, or I don't have time to explain it to you if you don't understand, or go ahead, have fun being poor. Like, if they're just fucking obviously the mindset of a 15-year-old, run away. That's a huge red flag. And I will tell you, now I'm going to show for a second. The reason I like the Nano community is because I ask a lot of tough questions. And they sit down and they go point by point by point by point by point by point by point. And they say, and I say, look, you just gave me 17 points. I didn't understand 14 of them. They're like, okay, cool. Well, which ones didn't you understand? We'll try to say it a different way. And they're just the most patient, scientific, mathematical people I've ever met. And they
wonder how long that'll last.
Yeah, maybe it's going to go away. But so far it's been 3 years. And they haven't changed. That community hasn't changed. And that's a top-down thing. That's how Colin is. That's how and in the Discord groups, they kick people out who start talking shit and start aggressively going after people. Like, this is a top-down community-based thing where they say, no. This is what we want. This is the goals we're trying to achieve. And that's what I like about it. So that's me personally. That's what I like personally. But I think every single person who wants to invest, treat it like an investment. Treat it like you're going to, invest in Apple, and do your research. Do they have intelligent people working there? Are they getting audits? Are they, do they have diversity practices that you appreciate? Do they have this? Do they have, because all this stuff kind of like gives you a sense of how long they're going to last. Do they have enough money in the bank? What's their outflow? Like, are they spending more money than they're bringing in? Or are they spending more money than the price is increasing and they're going to run out of money pretty soon? But ask questions, and if they don't even take the time to try to answer your questions, that's a big red flag. If they start to go into side topics like Richard Hart does, that might be a kind of a red flag. If you ask a question about the long-term viability of the project and he tells you that he wants you to start thinking about him when you masturbate, that is a red flag. Maybe you should be a little worried. So do your due diligence. Be intelligent.
Yeah.
You're an investor. This is your money. You got to do the work. You can't, no one's going to hand you $1 million. You have to do the work.
I think it's more my natural skepticism than anything, because how long has Ryblox been around? Like since 2014, right? That's how long it's been around as a cryptocurrency. And
not even that long. Like 2017, 2016.
Are you sure? I thought it was around longer. I remember 2017 was when it kind of went on its bull run, but it was around before that. It started much earlier. But anyway, don't tell me I know more about Ryblox than you. um,
The
but so
inception.
the only sort of the only kind of crazy shit that it went through was that the what was the hack? What was the exchange hack that
It
they had
wasn't
to
a
deal
hack.
with? That I mean, okay, it wasn't a hack. It was
just the CEO
a
ran out
guy
of
running
money
away.
and stole it and ran away with
Right.
all the money.
Okay. What
Bomber.
was the name of that exchange? What was the name of the
BitGrail.
exchange? BitGrail. Okay,
BitGrail.
so there was the BitGrail quote unquote hack. That was a terrible thing that happened. A lot of people lost their Rye blocks, and this is before Nano rebranded as Nano. And since then, I guess my questions are: have there been any exploits, hacks? Has there been any drama at all? Has there been any issues with with liquidity? Has there been any issues with? I mean, I hear talk that it's more distributed than Bitcoin. Find that hard to believe, but maybe it's true. Since
It's easier to distribute than it is than Bitcoin.
Yeah, I guess so. What about decentralization? Are there more nodes than Bitcoin? There can't be, right? That's like anyway. That's my brain is like, how could this small little project compete? And I think it's like I naturally want to say we need to keep looking into that. We need to keep testing that. And
you should absolutely be skeptical. You should absolutely answer those questions for yourself and ask those questions.
The other issue is that the only other cryptocurrency that quote unquote cryptocurrency that offers free transaction is called IOTA, and it's a piece of centralized garbage that quit working for a week this year, and like it's not a cryptocurrency at all. So that makes me think, well, anything that claims to be free and extremely fast and is something that most people don't know about, it must have some sort of issue like that. That's what I think, and I'm sure that's what a lot of other people think too.
Yeah.
So,
that kind of cracks me up because it shows me that those people don't believe in cryptocurrency.
Well, maybe you're right. I think maybe you're right.
It's because it's the idea of so what Nano says is if you want to use it, you got to do two proof of work things on your phone before you can use it. And to me, that just makes sense. Like if I'm going to use something, that's essentially paying it forward. I want to do one thing, I have to do two things to be able to do that one thing. So that's why. So it's constantly like proof of working. And it's about paying it forward. And people say like, well, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it for free? And it's like, well, I don't mind doing those two proof of work transactions to do my one transaction, right? Because I want it to work. I don't want to have to pay fees. So I'm going to pay that small little amount of electricity to do that second proof of work to make my transaction work. And it's almost like it's too egalitarian for libertarians. They're like, fuck no. If I can't figure out a way to make money by investing a bunch of money into miners, then it's not legitimate. Yeah, like that's all Bitcoin is rich people saying, I want to be able to co-opt the system so I can make money off of it. That's why they don't like that's why they don't like Nano. It's too egalitarian. It's too socialist. It's too, it's too like too Marxist, Leninist, socialist, fucking whatever. It's like, God, libertarian, shut the fuck up. It's just people being cool. It's just people being cool, you know?
Most people probably don't like it because it's down 98% from its high. And that's the other thing is like, and we get this a lot. It's the have fun staying poor saying, like, well, obviously this coin is not a success because look at the price.
Yeah.
Look how it only goes down. Well, you know what? The US dollar only goes down too, and it works as a currency pretty well.
You know what's funny is somebody posted on Twitter, they joked around, they said, "Oh, the end of 2020, it was $1.06. The beginning of 2021, it's like roughly $1.06. Nano, the most stable cryptocurrency out of all of them." But it's true since the end of 2018, it's been anywhere between 80 cents and $1 $1.40 roughly. It's just kind of floating around there, you know, and I think, like, to me, that's a good thing.
I don't think it's meant to be a stable coin.
It's not meant to be a stable coin, but to me, like, that's a good thing. I don't want something, you know, the reason it jumped to 32 is because it was manipulated by one person. It was only really on one major, and it wasn't even a major exchange. It was a small Italian exchange that was really the only place to get it. And that guy was stealing left and right. And you have no control over that. That's not, I mean, that's all the cryptocurrencies that were on that were affected the same exact way. Just Nano was the one that or, you know, Ryblocks back then, that was the one that people were using the most. That was people were buying and selling the most on that site. But every single cryptocurrency on that site was affected the same exact way. People aren't talking about the BitGrail hack with BTC or with Ethereum or with Litecoin. All those coins were affected just as much, but they didn't have as much of a bounce because people weren't as excited about those.
Yeah.
So it's just sad. I mean, it's sad what happened, but like at the end of the day, I'm not trying. Like, it's really easy to get caught up in the pump and dumps. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for stuff that will actually last.
So Nano is its supply is fully distributed at this point. It's right. There's no more faucet. There's no mining. It's all out there already. People are just buying and selling it.
Correct. It was all done at the beginning through CAPTCHAs. People just solved CAPTCHAs for a year.
That's pretty interesting to think that it's all out there already. It's already fully distributed. Oh, yeah. Well,
and I'm not trying to show you, JJ. I'm not trying to convince you that Nano. These are just, you know, these are the questions that I've had in the past that I found answers to. That, you know, this is the reason. And, you know, and it's not my biggest bag. I've talked to people on the show. I've talked to you on the show about Tesla versus Edison. Just because you have the best technology doesn't mean you're going to win out right away. No, it may take 100 years.
That's probably where we can. So for 2021, Bitcoin is probably going to go crazy high.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to crash 50% in like an hour. And it's, I wonder what people are, using to justify this time it's different meme. Like, I mean,
Michael
like
Saylor.
Really like
Michael Saylor, Grayscale.
But I think we talked about this last week, but like, you got to remember that in 2016, 2017, we had millionaires and billionaires publicly buying crypto too. So it's like that's just another meme, like some rich guy coming along and saying, oh, and I think Michael Saylor did something crazy. I was reading today that like basically he's using debt to buy Bitcoin or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just basically a big option call.
Holy shit. Like every single person says, don't do this. And you have a billionaire doing it. And if that option call comes up, holy shit, that's going to fucking destroy. If he has to sell all his Bitcoin to cover his debt, I mean, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin.
Yikes. That would be crazy.
I don't understand why it's like Bitcoin people just, it's like dealing with 13-year-olds. And I'm going to say it over and over again, but it's just like, it's those, if you ever watch the marshmallow test with kids, read about the marshmallow test. And I swear to God, all the kids who eat their marshmallow are in Bitcoin now.
So there's big kind of red flags like this as far as investing in Bitcoin. I think that's one of them. If Michael Saylor has to sell his Bitcoin, that's going to be pretty bad. And then the other thing that is, to me, what I learned from the Ripple SEC thing is that Ripple, the third biggest cryptocurrency, is not safe. So, like, you think that Tether is a stable thing. Like, I understand you got to believe that in order for Bitcoin to be as valuable as it is.
Yeah.
But seriously, if there's something off with Tether, and we already know that its audits are weird and it's not fully
non-existent,
backed and all this stuff, and I mean, it's
are non-existent.
even if it's even if it's only backed as 70% or whatever they say, like that's a big deal. And if the U.S. government, if the SEC or if the whatever, if the New York Attorney General actually does something, I mean, like that's bad. That's bad. If Tether goes away, we fucking lose Bitcoin for years. It's going to be gone. And I mean, like you look at something like Ripple and you say, like, okay, well, Ripple's a centralized shitcoin, but it had immense market power. It had the ability to pump. Basically, there was a lot of people who owned it. There were a lot of people who believed in it, and now it is gone. Like, yeah, maybe it'll be left on some offshore exchanges, and you can still buy and sell it. But it's like BitConnect; it's pretty much gone, and it's probably going to go away.
Yeah. And this is a perfect example of how. Sorry, you want to finish up? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you think that can't happen to Bitcoin because of whatever reason, then I mean, just I don't know. Be careful, man.
Yeah, I mean, it can't happen to Bitcoin in the sense of you can't shut Bitcoin down, but you have to look at the building blocks of what's getting the price up so high. And me and JJ have our theories that Tether is one of those things, and if Tether goes bye-bye, what happens to the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So, but
Tether and big institutions and billionaires.
Yeah. And especially if they're buying all their Bitcoin on debt, if the price of Bitcoin tanks, and they're forced to sell, like, oh my God, that's a scary thing. But also, what I wanted to say, I mean, and I think I said it. I don't know if I said it. I'm pretty sure I said it last week. But it's just I definitely said it on Twitter though. For 2 years during the bear market, 2018 and 2019. Bankers left and right were saying Bitcoin's a scam over and over and over and over again for 2 full years, 3 full years, like, into 2020. And then all of a sudden they say, oh no, actually, Bitcoin's great. And we find out they've been buying it for years. The entire bear market they were buying. Fidelity was actually mining it.
Yeah,
and now crazy. They're all saying, oh, we're buying all this Bitcoin. We're buying it left and right. We're buying billions. We're buying this. We're buying that. We're buying.
Well, there's no law against
they're
lying.
They're fucking selling. If they're telling you it's a shit coin, it's because they're buying it. If they're telling you they're buying it, it's because they're selling it. Banks don't show their hand. They don't. They don't show their hand until it's already been played. They don't risk you buying it before they buy it.
No one really seems to be selling Bitcoin because the price is just going so apeshit. But
the only way for something to go up is for someone to be selling it to somebody who's buying it.
That's a good point. But I don't really know what distribution looks like on a chart or whatever. So I don't know, but usually when the price goes down, it goes. I mean, we talk about borrowing or options or anything like this. We're basically talking about leverage trading, which is something that happens in Bitcoin because it can't be regulated, and that's one of the things that creates such wild volatility. It's what creates the Bart Simpson patterns, for instance. At least it's believed that this is what causes these spikes ups and spikes downs, because you get people who are over leveraged, so you get a lot of margin calls and
flash crashes.
Well, throw the price. Yeah, it'll flash crash. It'll flash pump. All of these things. So get ready when the billionaires get margin called.
But also, it's very easy to pump the price of something if you're rich. It's very easy to buy to slowly.
I mean, I believe that. Hold on.
It's very easy to stockpile, and then say, "Oh yeah, we're buying Bitcoin." And so let's say they bought $10 billion worth of Bitcoin, and they have $3 billion worth in their pocket. And they say, let's fucking pump the price and sell that 10 billion that we bought at 4,000, 5,000. So they start saying, oh yeah, we're buying Bitcoin like crazy. Look, we're buying $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. And people are like, holy shit, that's so much money. Not realizing they already bought 10 billion worth, way lower. And so they start buying and start
man.
buying and start buying. And that just drives the price up. And the entire time, they're selling that 10 billion all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. So they're making like, 300, 400, 500, 600% profit that you think they're buying that with that 3 billion. Like the consumer thinks that they're getting in with the banks, but the banks are actually fucking selling all the way up. So it's a very, very simple scam.
But Michael Saylor, he
wouldn't do that to us.
He likes the community. He wouldn't. He says he likes the Bitcoin community. He thinks it's full of great memes. All right, everybody. Welcome to Keyword Crypto. Welcome to 2020. I hope that
2021.
Welcome to 2021. Yikes! I was about to say I hope that your 2020 wasn't too bad, and I hope that you are excited for. I hope that you're excited for what's to come, whether it's Michael Saylor selling his Bitcoin and crashing the price, or whether it's Tether imploding, or whether it's just just Bitcoin becoming that diamond that shines forever.
And everybody gets rich, including all the poor people.
Everybody gets rich. Yeah.
And robots do our work for us.
That chart just keeps on going up forever. Yep. No poor people anymore. No poor people. Yes. The more Bitcoin Michael Saylor buys, the fewer fewer poor people there will be. Yeah. Right? That's how it works. Okay.
Because it's the wealthier rich people get, the richer poor people get. That's just science. That's just basic economics 101. Don't you know that?
Yeah, look at the Gini coefficient. It's getting better. Sorry. Oh, man.
We're just making fun of Bitcoin people. Don't mind us.
Yeah. My Twitter mentions were so pleasant for a while until recently.
Yeah. Well, you riled them up.
Anyway, buddy. Yeah, I know, but I answered a question. That was it. Okay. Yeah. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop.
People who have been listening, we really appreciate you guys. Thanks for and gals. People. We love you. We appreciate you. We wouldn't keep doing this if we didn't have you supporting us. And thanks for everything you do, and to keep the space amazing. And please tell your friends. Please like and subscribe and rate us and all that good stuff that helps us. We really appreciate it. But most importantly, just we really appreciate seeing how many people are downloading and listening to this show. That makes us feel like we're doing something right. So
yeah,
thank you for
that. At Keyword Crypto on Twitter. I'm at keyword_JJ, and Michael is at Michael Krupto. I think it's CRUPTO. Michael Krupto. You don't want people to follow you, do you? You don't want people to find you at all, apparently. I don't either, because I have an underscore in my name.
Well, I don't want to, because I don't want people to associate my personal one with the show, because I'm such a shit talker. So, not like I don't talk shit on the show, but
Well, so we do most of our engagement on Twitter if you want to find us there. If you have questions, if you have things to add, if you have people that you want us to talk to, we actually have a lot of fun talking to people who are building in the space, who are working on specific projects, or maybe they're founders of cryptos or something like that. Hit us up, and or if you just got a pie in the sky guest, because sometimes we've talked to Vitalik on this show, so
yeah,
there's no one we can't get in crypto.
That was crazy.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Have a good night.
Happy New Year.
See y'all later.